Okay, so I had this thought, and I felt the need to share with you. What if God's just like this massive troll? Okay, so, and I say this because there are some things that occur in the archaeological and geological record that just don't make sense. They're out of place. Like, supposedly there are footprints in volcanic ash that are supposedly supposed to be atomically modern human. I think I know what that set of prints actually is, and it's not that. It's actually, footprints don't look anything like an atomic, a modern atomic human, and modern body type, you know, the shape of our feet. I'm having a hard time remembering that word right now. Saying that word, I don't know why. But then there's like other stuff, like human-looking artifacts found in rock that's supposed to be 50 million years old, right? And you go, okay, wait. So there's miners and they're digging a mine, and they find stuff embedded in rock, and it's supposedly 50 million years old. It's like, what if God's just like fucking trolling us? What if he's just looking down at us and going, these dumb humans, they fucking think they know what's going on. Don't they know that they're inside my mind? Like, god dang it. I wanna fuck with them. Look, ooh, hey. These idiots. They think they know so much about the universe and the world. Okay, let's put some random shit right there. See them explain that. Yeah, you can't explain that. There are things that are unexplainable. What if that's what God's like? He just like looks down and he's like, okay, I'm bored today. Let's start some shit. Let's see who we can mess with. And, you know, he goes after, like, the people who, like, really need a lesson. I think this is why, okay, I'm getting into something completely chaotic, and I'm still trying to figure it out, so you're going to have to follow me. Try to follow my logic as I talk through this. But, essentially, what thought path that I'm going down right now, and you don't have to agree with this, you don't have to think this is a good idea or at all. Yeah, just listen. But our minds are ruled by different little personalities. If you talk to, like, you know, I get this idea from, like, Dr. Jordan Peterson, who is a psychologist or psychology professor. I don't say psychologist or psychiatrist. He might be a psychiatrist. But he's extremely trained. He's done a lot of counseling. He's written a lot of books and stuff. He's done a lot of study. He's extremely fascinating, and he understands, I think, the human mind better than most people, because he can understand the symbolic underpinnings of our psychology, which I think is absolutely astounding. And he has, you know, conceptions about, you know, why we need belief, why we need meaning in our life and stuff like that. And so you realize that in your head you have these little personalities. You get angry, you get sad, you get upset. There's probably some that are like super happy. There's like ones that, you know, and they all have different little jobs. And I think this is really evident in, like, dissociative identity disorder, where you have someone who dissociates from their body. So they either retreat into, like, a fantasy realm or back into their mind. They're not present anymore. But survival instinct kicks in, right? And they have to still survive. And a lot of the times these people, the reason why they dissociate is because they have some sort of abusive, often sexually abusive, experience. And I mean, a lot of these people go through really, really nasty shit. And so what happens is they recede, or they just, their consciousness goes somewhere else, but their body has to survive. And there's all these little personalities that are your survival instincts that come together, and they have to figure out how to make you survive. So one personality, maybe the strongest one at the time, will merge itself. It's like, okay, I'm the one that my job, my survival instinct is to protect, right? My survival instinct is to fight back. That's my job, is to fight back. So you have a personality who comes in and becomes the protector personality. A lot of people with dissociative identity disorder do have like a protector of some sort. And then there's the other personalities, because there's no layering personality to integrate all the personalities together into one thing. They start to emerge. When you take a step back and just let your instincts, you know, the other, and it has to take some sort of real psychological force, I think, some real psychological trauma to make that work. I think schizophrenic people have a different problem. I don't think they're dissociating, or if they are, it's like different. I think it's just their brains are maybe just wired differently, and they're more in the spiritual realm, and so that makes their world like look different and seem different. They're in a different reality. They're like in between, and that's really, really hard for a person. A person like needs to be able to separate the two, right, in order to be able to be where they need to be and do what they need to do, right? And so you have to know where you are. You have to know what you are and what you're doing. If you're in the spiritual realm in your mind, but physically you're in this realm walking around and shit like that, like, you know, it's not gonna end up well for you. You're gonna end up like walking off a cliff or something. A lot of, you know, this is why I think a lot of, you know, these people, they end up like homeless and living on the streets, and you know, they talk to themselves constantly and stuff. Like, I talk to myself constantly too, but I think that's a little bit because I have like some bipolar tendencies. Apparently bipolar people are really talkative. That makes sense to me. So my dad's side of the family, my dad is a very, very, very talkative man. You get him talking, he won't stop talking. He loves to talk to everybody and anybody with a good person, you know, good attitude. He'll talk to anybody and everybody, and he just go talk. You can't pull him away. It's like, Dad, come on, we've been here for like 6 hours. Can we please leave? I want to go home and sleep. And he'd be like, no, okay, 5 minutes, 5 more minutes. And then like 20 minutes later, he'd be like, Dad, please, can we go? Anyway, I tell you that just because, like, I have another family member on that side of the family who has bipolar, a sibling of my dad's, and it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely a family trait. I'm not crazy at all. I do have a very active imagination, and maybe that's just me tapping into whatever the spiritual realm is, but like, I can differentiate between my imagination or the spiritual realm or whatever you want to call that, whether it's in your brain or out there. That is like, you know, that's the difference, I think, between being like a spiritually oriented person and being like psychotic or not psychotic, having psychosis. I guess that's the same thing, right? I don't know. It's been a while since I've taken psychology classes. I should maybe like read up on this stuff. I haven't had a lot of motivation the last several months because of my depression. So now that I'm feeling better, I am feeling like I want to do more things and stuff. Okay, so I think I've made a pretty good argument for there being little personalities in your brain that just kind of they help you manage your body and stuff. You don't actively like control your heart, but something does. Like something in your brain does. You're not actively aware of it, but there's something there that controls your heart and makes it beat, you know. And it might actually be in your heart. The timekeeper might actually be in your heart. But yeah, you know. So if you look at the world as if it's fractile, right? Everything's fractile. The structure of our universe is fractile. You look at you know, the swirl of a galaxy, and you can find the same type of swirl in an electric motor, you know. You look at some of the things in our universe, it's absolutely fucking amazing. But things are fractile. The structure of the universe, you know, you've got planets circulating a big sun, right? And that big sun, the whole, you know, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time thinking through this right now. I'm just a little tired. I was up all night and I couldn't fall asleep until like 5 o'clock this morning. It was terrible. So, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's just like get down to the core of what my point is. I think that we're all little personalities inside of the brain of God. Oh, I know where I was going with that last example. It was about the solar system being a you know, you have the sun in the middle, and then you have the planets rotating, and it's kind of, it vaguely resembles, you know, an atom and nucleus, you know, it's that type of stuff. You know, you zoom in, you find patterns. There's patterns in everything, and our world is kind of controlled by geometry, numbers, and stuff like that. You'll find the Fibonacci sequence everywhere, and nature. You'll find the golden ratio in a lot of places in nature. You'll find fractals everywhere in nature. You find it in the human body. You see it in the plants. You see it in the animals. You see it everywhere. There's no reason to think that our minds are not fractile as well. There's no reason to think that. There's no reason to think that there isn't a higher consciousness that above us that actually did create us. There's no reason to think that. We create our own little worlds inside our own minds. You know, we are the gods of whatever is in our heads. You are the god of your own little personalities. You know, if you are an angry person, and that angry person wants to I'm talking about the angry part of your personality, the little angry personality inside of your head that you know, wants to beat the shit out of, you know, that Dwayne guy because he looked at you wrong. You have to be the god of your own mind. I know this is strange, but you really do. You have to, like, take control of your own mind and be like, no, you little fucker, we're not gonna fucking do that. And you want to know why we're not gonna fucking do that? We're not gonna fucking do that because we live by principles. And here are the principles that I'm choosing to live by, so you have to follow these principles as well. And if you don't, Yeah, and you threaten and shit, and you make the world gets, your mind gets really chaotic. You say, if you don't follow my rules, you set yourself your own rules, and if the little personalities in your own mind don't follow those rules, things get chaotic, and you have to explain that to your little personalities. This is why talking out loud, I think it is so good, especially for me. Like, you know, you process things better when you speak out loud. And why is that? Why? Maybe it's because your little personalities in your brain can hear what you're saying. Some of them can hear what you're saying. You say it over and over and over again. You say, you know, God, we really have to get organized. We really have to get organized. We really, really have to get organized, you know? And you say it over and over again. What do you eventually do? You start cleaning your room. You say it over and over again. You're like, okay, I really got to get organized. Okay, well, shit, I really should go work. I really should go work. Oh God, I really should go work. You say it over and over again. Eventually, enough of your personalities are gonna respond, and you're gonna go, okay, well, it's time to go work. Bye. But I think talking to yourself is a good thing. I think people who think that talking to themselves is a bad thing are fucking crazy. No, I talk to myself all the time. You know, you gotta keep your personalities in line. It's like you gotta be the god of your own personalities. And there's no reason to think that we are not personalities in the mind of God. You don't know what it looks like to be a personality in your own mind. You don't know what that experience is like, you know? And maybe sometimes your personalities start to develop a life of their own, you know? They start to think that they are real, and they start to take over. Maybe this is why we get ideological people. Maybe this is why people have demons that possess them, and they need cleansed. It's because the personality inside their head is starting to act as if it has its own power. And you have to, like, come and be like, no, you motherfucker, I am the real person. You are not. Right? And, there's no reason why it's not the same for God. Maybe, you know, God sends down, you know, like, God's tried to send down rules, and you know, you have, like, the Mosaic rules, and the Mosaic rules, are kind of fucked up in some ways. Like, who the fuck needs a goddamn fucking rule about not boiling the kid of a goat in its mother's milk? Who needs that arbitrary law? Is that a thing? And so now it's like, if you want to be kosher and follow the Torah to the T, you have to not drink milk and beef together, because you can't have milk and you know, the meat that comes from the same animal in the same meal. It's like absolutely ridiculous. What does that have to do with anything about cleanliness? And like second of all, what does that have to do with boiling a kid of a goat alive in milk? Like, what does that have to do with that? Yeah, no shit, you shouldn't do that. Somebody was probably doing that. That's probably why Moses made it a rule. It's like, oh my God, these people were retarded. It's like, yeah, no shit. They lived in a time when the consciousness of God wasn't quite as advanced. I know that people think that, you know, God is all-knowing, but God is all-knowing. But God also has to think about things. It's not that everything that we have is all that there could be. It's just that God hasn't thought up what the rest of the stuff is yet, right? And you know, there are cycles. There are definitely cycles. Like, when we go to sleep at night, what do our little personalities think? Like, where do they go? Do they just blink out of existence? Because we go somewhere, we dream. Are we talking to our little personalities? Or are we in the spiritual realm? Are we connecting with God when we're dreaming? The more I look into like spiritual matters and stuff, the more I start to remember my dreams and whatnot. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I really don't. I think when you have a stronger connection to the divine or the spiritual realm, or to the higher consciousness of the universe, which we know as God, which makes up literally everything, when it comes together into one point, that's God fully integrated. And maybe this is the thing. Maybe we're in God's daytime, you know? I was listening to some motherfucker out there. I say motherfucker because he was garbage, but, you know, there was this interesting idea that he said that, that the Hindus believed that the world would come out of chaos, organize itself, then go back into chaos, and these cycles would last. You would have like 2.4 billion years or something, where it would be like, okay, existence is here, okay, and then 2.4 billion years where existence would be blinked out of blinked out. And you don't know how long a day is for God, right? Like, how long is a day? You know, like, you hear these terms, but these terms don't mean anything. The word day really doesn't mean anything in terms of what time actually is. Time is just a series of events. It doesn't really, it doesn't mean anything. These arbitrary concepts that we give to time don't really mean anything. They're just events that happen in order, in a particular order. But there's no reason why you know, I don't know. This is a lot to think about. So maybe it's like God, you know, is awake for a period of time, and then like God goes to sleep or something. And I don't know. Like, maybe we only exist when God's awake. I don't know. You know, I have no idea. And maybe God has a higher God above that God. I don't know. But we're never going to know. If everything's fractal and it's like mind upon mind upon mind upon mind upon mind, and it gets more and more complex as you get higher and higher, and less complex as you go lower and lower. I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't just be gone infinitely, you know, higher and higher and higher. You know, and, you know, you talk, there's some things in this world which may seem to suggest that we might be living in some sort of simulated reality. It's not that things aren't real, it's just that, like, maybe they're not, like, real in the way that you think that they are. Everything is real, but it's like, the things that are in my head are real too, to me. My reality is different from your reality, and Joe's reality is different from Barb's reality, and Barb's reality might be more similar to Susie's reality, but Susie had a different childhood growing up than Barb, so, you know, it doesn't fucking match up. It doesn't line up. Everybody has their own experiences. Everybody has their own realities. You have enough people agree on the same reality, that's what reality is. Maybe that's why there was magic in the past. Everybody believes in magic, there's magic. Nobody believes in magic, there's not magic. You know, you know, and to me, this would suggest that the main power source of our universe is rather actually psionic, mental. And so this makes sense to me. You have a thought, that's mental energy. You can translate that into sound. You speak to people, right? If you speak to people, or like you can talk to yourself, you can say to yourself, close your eyes, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to imagine the scene. Now let there be light. Okay, now let there be a spiritual form in the middle. Okay, now let there start to be trees and oceans and all these things. You can visualize that, right? You can talk yourself through that, and you can guide yourself through that concept, right? And you can see maybe how God created the world. It's like, okay, you have to think about it. You have to think about the world, right? It's like, oh, it gets easier if you design the world with fractals, you know, or whatever. It's easier if you design the world, you know, using repeating patterns. It's easier to design the world if there's a hierarchical pattern, which, you know, there's a definite everywhere. You see hierarchical patterns everywhere in nature. One thing eats another thing, which eats another thing, which eats another thing, which eats another thing, right? And it goes down and down and down until you get to plankton, and plankton absorbs sunlight. It's still consuming. Like, people don't understand this. No. Eating meat, eating animals, that's not a bad thing. That's stupid. I really do think that's stupid. Because all things consume. I don't think you should over-consume by any means, but I think it's dumb to be like, oh, these things you can't eat because somehow they're spiritually unclean. I don't necessarily buy that. This whole realm is in the mind of God from you know, if you're just following this theory right now, all things are in the mind of God. And so, you know, if you have like cattle that have been raised for meat and milk and stuff like that, and that's their purpose, and that's what they've been created for, and we're in the mind of God, and that's what those things have been created for, why the fuck can't we eat them? It's just like dumb, like these vegans and stuff out there. If you go from the perspective of like, oh, well, I don't really want to cause suffering, I mean, that's your own like thing. You're connecting to the spiritual realm and stuff like that. I think that's a path. I don't think that is like, is this a sin or is it not a sin? It's like, well, some things are sins. So then you think to yourself, okay, so if I'm the god of my own mind, right, of all the little personalities running around, running my body and stuff like that, think about this. You have trillions and trillions and trillions of cells that are all communicating with one another through hormones and bioelectrics and through water, and water actually changes its form when it comes in contact with the membrane of a cell, and it becomes this quasi-structured crystalline, like gel type thing. And there's no reason why water couldn't in that form hold some sort of information. So you think about that, our cells are filled with this stuff. It's the perfect medium for the cells to communicate with. That's why it's really good to drink a lot of water. Drink water. It's good for you spiritually and physically. I think anyway. I'm a huge fan of taking a shower every day. If I don't take a shower every day, I'm useless. Cleanses the body. Makes you skinnier, too. It's good for you. There's no reason why the things in the mind of God... there's some things that bring the mind of God more into chaos. And, I would consider those things bad things. Because if you have your God, you want your God to have a chaos-free mind, right? And so you want to live in peace and harmony with your brothers and sisters on the planet Earth. And you want to live in peace and harmony with anybody else that you come across, you know? And you don't want to destroy the habitat of other creatures because you don't want to disturb the harmony of them either. You want to keep the mind of God in a happy place. You keep the mind of God in a happy place by, you know, imposing logic and reason into your own mind and into your actions and principles and behaviors. You're going to change the mind of God. I know this is a crazy concept, but, like, I do think that this is interesting because I don't know if this is right or not, but it's like, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? We would then have a direct impact on reality and what reality looks like. So then, you know, I get back to my initial point. Okay, so if we're inside the mind of God, then he's just a massive fucking troll sometimes. He's like, look at this shit I'm gonna do. You motherfuckers, you don't understand. Yeah, I killed a bunch of you. But here's the deal. Like, you guys were causing me a whole lot of fucking problems. You were making my life shit, so you guys are gonna get reborn to learn this fucking lesson again. And the ones of you who I'm happy with, you'll fucking rejoin with me. And, you know, God started tyrannical. Humans were really chaotic and disorganized and tyrannical, so God was tyrannical. Things were a lot more violent. Then you have the introduction of, like, states and nation states and government and structure and rationality and reason and logic. And the more that this stuff has spread, it feels like our universe in general has become more ordered. The more that we spread concepts of rationality and reason and logic and argument and discussion and anti-violence, the non-aggression principle, pacifism, all these things, the more ordered and the more peaceful we make the mind of God. This is why it is so important for you to control your behavior, isn't it? Isn't that crazy? That's a crazy thought. If you are a little personality inside the mind of God, then it is your duty to try to live to the best of your ability, to be the best that you are, because you want to make the mind of God the most organized and the most peaceful that you can. Right? So you want to spread your ideas to other people. You want to share these ideas that enlighten people, that turn that spark on, that lets them see some sort of connection, whether it's to logic and reason. That is completely valid. If you're a scientist and don't believe in God, I believe that you believing in science and reason and logic and trying to create more order out of the chaos. I believe you're a good person, you're doing the right things. I don't see why you wouldn't be quote-unquote saved. You know, we save files on our computers. Why wouldn't God save files of good ideas? I don't know. You know? Like, maybe hell is just a return to Earth. Have you ever thought about that? It's like people talk about heaven and hell. Well, heaven and hell, my dear, are psychological states. I think there's heaven, hell, and those exist here on Earth, and then there's the spiritual, and when you rejoin the spiritual, that's something completely different. That's not heaven or hell. And, you know, you have all these, you know, myths where gods and stuff will die and be resurrected and stuff, and that's a myth that plays. Oh God, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. See, I'm trying to stay focused, but what your little personalities in your brain do, they go, okay, well, hey, what about this? And then, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this? But it's like, oh my God, guys, shut up. I'm trying to connect to the spiritual. I'm trying to stay focused on one thing. And, oh, that's the other thing, too. It's like, you're able, it's like being able to focus on one thought. And this is why the Buddhists, they especially like Zen Buddhists, because their minds are so active. You measure the mind of a Buddhist and you're like, hey, dude, contemplate compassion, and their frontal lobes light up bright like a fire, you know, like. And you look at the Zen Buddhists. I remember taking a not philosophy, but a theology of religions class, and we studied Buddhism. And I remember watching this video about how these Buddhists would sit out in the freezing cold, and they would sit there in just their robes, and they would meditate, and then they would get water poured over on top of them, and it would start to steam off of them because they were creating so much energy. I think this is why, you know, spiritual people can fast for so long. You know, they talk about Jesus fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. Well, maybe that's not an exaggeration. Maybe he's tapping into a different, you know, type of energy source to feed his body, and that's spiritual. I mean, Jesus even said that if you come to me and you eat of my bread, you'll never go hungry again. And you see the joy that the Christians, especially in early Christianity, had surrounding the concepts and ideas that Jesus brought. It was a lot more real to them than it is now, you know. They literally thought, you know, it was literally spiritual bread. And God, it's amazing. Like these Buddhists, they just heat up. They're like on fire. They're not on fire, but they steam off. You know, all this. They're warm. They're really, really warm. And when Buddhists meditate, they're focusing on one thing. You know, it's like when you meditate. And I heard this was something one of my psychology professors said, and this is a good. I think this is a good way to think about it. My dad didn't quite do a good enough job about it, but you focus on one thing, right? And or you try to focus on nothing, right? And so the idea is that you have like the infinity sign. So you come out here, oh, you try to think of nothing. So you start with like close to nothing, right? And you're trying to focus on that. And then a random thought pops in your head, so you start going down here. And it's like you're supposed to acknowledge the thought, oh, right, I'm supposed to go to the mall next week to go hang out with my sister. And then you, like, bring it back and try to focus back on thinking about nothing. And then another thought comes in your mind, and you're like, oh, yeah, I need to pick up milk on my way home from work or something. And then you come back to thinking about nothing. And then but the whole point, the more you practice, the more that infinity, you know, the way that I'm explaining it, you know, how it just goes kind of back and forth and back and forth. I think this is probably one of the reasons why there's the infinity sign. You know, you go chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos, order. When you're focusing on one thing, you're fully integrated, right? You are fully integrated. That is where your consciousness is at. When you're not focusing on one thing, your consciousness is separated between all your little personalities and stuff. Oh, I'm thinking so much right now. My brain's on fire. Alright. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you guys think about this. I really want this to be kind of a discussion. And so I want to hear your ideas about what you think, or if this is something you've heard before, because I can imagine there's probably been somebody who's thought about this before, but I don't know that I've ever come across it. So if you've seen anybody else who's also had this kind of line of thought, I'd really like to know about it. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks.